right, good day. Welcome back to the Gospel Mind. My name's Rodney Martin.
And I'm Dwayne Fields.
And we're here today to go down into the mind. We're going into Acts chapter 9 today. So get your Bible, get your pick, get your shovel. Let's go on down into mind and see what we can uncover today, Brother Dwayne.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. This is a good one.
Yeah, I am too. Mm-hmm. It is a good one.
Yeah,
very good.
I'll ask you, as always, to lead the way.
All right. Here we go. Acts chapter 9 and verse 1. And Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest, and desired of him letters to Damascus to the synagogues, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. So we know this is on the heels of Stephen, and and what happened with Stephen, and now this Saul, and I've heard you mention this several times. The zeal that he had was, it was remarkable. I mean, he had a great zeal.
He very much did.
And thought what he was doing was the right thing to do.
Right.
According to the law.
And we go back to chapter 8, verse 3. It says, As for Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering into every house and hauling men and women, committing them to prison. So there's the glimpse of Paul in chapter 8.
Yeah.
Now, chapter 9 just is, he's right down the line.
Right, yes. And of course, and we know from some of the previous chapters that he actually was part of the reason, with the stoning of Stephen, with the church scattering. So
yeah, right,
and so now he's approached the high priest and he's asked for I would imagine it's the legal documents that would allow him to go in and arrest.
Right. And it says breathing out threatenings and slaughter. Now,
right.
I've heard people say that Saul actually killed Christians. I don't know that.
Right.
I don't think the Bible supports that 100%, although we do see that he's breathing out threatenings and slaughter.
Yes.
But I don't think the Bible actually ever tells us whether he actually hands-on had a hand in killing. We know that he was consenting unto Stephen's death, and we know that he was all for it.
Right.
But did he actually lay hands on a Christian and kill a Christian? We don't know.
Right. Yes.
So.
And I've not saw anything to support the fact that he was, like you say, hands-on involved.
Right.
But
in his consent, I mean, might as well have been.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're right. And he. Of course, you go back to the stoning of Stephen, and from what we could gather, I mean, he was encouraging this.
Right, he was consenting.
Right, and now we see that it's not just men that he's marking. I mean, even the women.
Right.
But of course, in his defense, you look back and you think about exactly what Paul's life had been dedicated to. And it was that law. And, we've talked about, his role in the Sanhedrin court and how that he sat at the feet of Gamaliel and the intent and the purpose behind it. So all of this, Paul thought he was doing God's work.
Right.
So, he's definitely causing some issues with the church.
That's right. And, even today in modern day Israel, there's a lot of Orthodox Jews who still, in some ways, persecute Christians that are living in that society. There's reports that Christians get spit on, churches urinated on. I mean, that's a pretty common theme in that area. I mean, it's because of the same spirit of unbelief.
Right, exactly. And of course, we'll find as we get on down through here, Paul has something happen to him that's pretty radical.
Right.
Okay, you got something else?
No, sir.
Okay, verse 3. And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. Now, and I've read this numerous times, and every time I read this, in my mind, I always try to imagine what. Now you think about Paul, and what would that have been like? You see this light, and the scripture don't really come out and say it, but I imagine this light to be so bright we know that Paul lost his eyesight.
Yeah, right.
But I just wonder what exactly it would have been like for Paul to to have this light shine, and what he had going through his mind.
Right.
Okay, you got something?
I just think that, this light, God is always associated with light. God is light. And so Jesus is God in the flesh. Now, Jesus had ascended up to the Father, but I think this is Jesus showing himself in casting such a bright light that, all you could see is just brightness.
Right.
That all Paul could comprehend is just so great a brightness.
Yes, kind of like Moses, when Moses was on the mount.
Yeah.
Of course, with Moses, we know that they had to veil his face because of the glow that he had.
Yeah.
And I imagine, right here, this is just, Paul was just struck blind.
He's in the presence of the Lord.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we'll see that in this next verse.
In the glorified state of the Lord.
Right. Yeah. Okay, you got something else?
No, sir.
Okay, in verse 4, and he fell to the earth and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. Of course, there had to be something in Paul because he understood that it was the Lord. He said, Who art thou, Lord?
That's what he said, yeah.
He had to have enough of a state of mind, I guess for lack of a better way of saying it spiritually, that he understood.
It's a pretty common thing when the Lord appears in his glory. It's never misunderstood as to who he is. If you ever noticed that, I think back to Nebuchadnezzar, when the 3 Hebrew children were cast into that furnace.
Right, and he saw the fourth.
Yeah, and he says, I see a fourth, like unto the Son of God. Or something to that effect.
Yeah, I think that's actually
so
the way
I've
it says.
often wondered, why is it, how would Nebuchadnezzar, a pagan king who had never known Christ, Christ had never officially showed up on the earth.
Right, yeah.
So how would he know that? I think it's by the same way. I think that when the glory of the Lord is present, and he's in that glorified state, there's no question who he is.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then, I guess the same thing could be said even with a Christian in salvation.
Yeah.
When that knock comes, that there's something there.
And another thing, if you go back to, that's a good point, but to Matthew 24, when Jesus returns, there's going to be no question as to who he is.
Yes, right.
It says the nations will mourn at his coming. And it's because the nations recognize who he is.
Yeah.
And so I just think that when the Lord appears, in his glorified state, there's going to be no question as to who he is.
Yeah. Well, and, it definitely got Paul's attention here. And, of course, and the Lord, asked him there in verse 5, why he persecuted him and told him that it was hard to kick against the pricks. And I don't know if you've ever looked at that, the pricks or the goads, but when they were plowing with like oxen or horses, they would take and sharpen those sticks and put them down there so they wouldn't kick back.
Right.
And so the Lord's telling him,
The Lord is telling him, if I were to put it in my words, you are my chosen vessel.
Yes.
You are going to do my work.
Yes.
And the harder you kick against it, the harder it's going to be for you.
Right. Yeah. And yes, and that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what's interesting here to me is, I'm Jesus who thou persecutest, he said. Well, as far as I know, Saul never physically persecuted Jesus.
Yeah. Right.
But he's persecuting Jesus' church.
Right.
So when Paul talks about powers and principalities, that's who we war against, these principalities. We're not at war with a government. We're not at war with people. We're at war with principalities.
Right.
And these principalities are at war with us. The evil men the evil people of the world are fighting against Jesus Christ.
Right.
When they fight against
Right.
us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when they persecute you and I, they're persecuting Jesus.
Right. Well, and you know, Paul even says that we are the body of Christ
Right.
on earth.
Right.
So yeah, you're exactly right. And that, yes, that's a good point, and that's exactly what Paul's doing here. I mean, he's coming again, that body that's on the earth.
So it's not about you or me per se. It's about this big picture.
Right.
It's about
Yes.
the principalities that govern and rule the unseen realm.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, and of course, and we see that at work, today. Man, you think about some of the things that people have allowed themselves to get to. I mean, it's amazing that when we start to yield ourselves, and of course, when we went over this, with one of our first podcasts, when we were in the book of Romans, how that, God would give these people over to this debate or reprobate or debased mind. And we see that to where that, everything that those principalities come to us with, we'll just follow through with that.
Right.
And man, it's bad.
Yes, it is. And the devil's fight is not really, I know it's going to sound weird, but his fight is not really with us.
No.
His fight is with God.
Yes.
But the only way he can get to God, he can't hurt God. There's only one way that he can get to God, and that's through his children.
Yes.
Persecution
Right.
of his children.
Yes.
And so that's the goal. The devil couldn't care less about us.
Right.
It's all about what I can do to hurt God.
Right. Yes.
And if we're part of that picture, wonderful.
Right. Well, and we went over this a little bit Sunday at the church. If you look at the parable of the wise man and the foolish man, the storm came to both. But I think a lot of times we neglect to look far enough into it to actually see the storm came for what was built.
Yeah.
It did not come for the man. I mean, you won't find anything through that parable that ever said that storm was actually coming for that man. It was coming to destroy what was built, which is, what God through the Spirit is building in us.
And that's interesting.
And so the storm came to destroy what was built. So the devil, it's not, like you say, it's not about getting me and you. It's about stopping that image of God, because if he can do that, then, like you said, and I mean, you've had this discussion several times, that's the only way that he can ever stop God, is by stopping the image of God in us. And so, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And it's never, the storm's never coming for us.
Right.
It's coming for the word's sake, or what's being built.
Yeah.
So, yes, very, very good point.
See, the devil's not going to persecute the wicked
Right.
because he's already got them on
Right.
his side.
No need. Yes.
So they're useful in their own way, in that they're already on his side and they're doing his will, which is slapping God right in the face. And that's what he wants to turn people like you and I into, is those same kind of people.
Right.
So that we can turn around and slap God right in the face.
Right. That's the only way that he can actually get that defeat
Yeah.
that he so longs for in
Yeah.
God. Yes, absolutely. And I agree 100%. Something else?
No, sir.
Okay, in verse 6, and he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. Now I think this is a good example of the zeal that you're always talking about with Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, instantly, when he said, well, Lord, what do you want
Yeah,
me to do?
he's like, okay, you got me, now what?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, just point me where I need to go and what I need to do. Yeah. So, and I think that would be a good verse for us to kind of recite in our mind every day, because, again, we are the embodiment of Christ, or the body of Christ.
Yeah.
So, what we suppress or what we give that's the only Christ that some people may ever see.
It's very true. But Saul understood here very well that the Lord had something for him to do.
Yes.
He wouldn't have done all this without reason. And so Paul's sitting here going, all right, what do you want now?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's ready to follow whatever he tells him, yeah. And as we get on down here, we'll find that the Lord's actually working on the other end, and he informs the one on the other end that, yes, Paul is a chosen vessel. Now, okay, you got something else?
Yes, sir.
All right, in verse 7, and the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. Don't you think it's amazing how the Lord could, right there in amongst them, reveals himself to Paul, but nobody else seen him?
Yeah, that is amazing.
And I guess one of the things that I think about with that is, as we go through Scripture, and of course this has happened with me and you several times, we'll start looking at something, and it amazes me that, the same verses that you're reading, I read, and it's like my mind takes me this direction and yours takes you that direction. And I feel like that's similar to this, that, you're seeing the same exact thing, but one's seeing it here and one's seeing it here.
Right.
And I've always said that to me is what makes the Word of God alive.
Yeah, and we see that through the Gospels.
We do.
We see 4 different eyewitness accounts of what happened during Jesus' ministry.
Right.
And we see them all tell the same story.
Yes.
But you see them all tell it from a different point of view. Now,
Right.
some very, very similar, but there's some details in every one that
Yes.
are a little different. Not
Right.
contradictory, but
Right.
a little different. And that just speaks to what you just said. There's things that I'm going to see that's going to stand out to me because
Yes.
maybe my life experiences or just how I'm inclined.
Right.
And you're
Right.
going to focus on something else, and man, that's what makes this all good.
Right, it
because
is.
I never saw that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think that's one of the purposes for the church coming together as a group of people to worship the Lord and to read His Word, because somebody's going to see something you
Right.
don't.
Yes.
And that's going to open up a whole
It does.
can of worms sometimes
It
for
does.
you. And I mean, it has for me.
Well, and yes, and it has for me, and I know some of the discussions that we've had.
Yeah.
There's things that I don't know that I would have ever seen, but once your eyes opened to that point of view, it's like there's so many other things that.
Yeah, you can't not see it.
Right. Yeah. It's just like that wow moment, and you think,
Yeah.
how do I miss that?
Yeah.
But I feel like that, in a similar fashion, this is kind of what's going on here.
Yeah.
That, Jesus came down for the purpose of Paul. And all these other men, they're hearing this voice, but they're not seeing anything.
Right.
And I would imagine they was probably a little wigged out too, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they just saw their boss laying on the ground going,
Yeah, and didn't see nothing.
Speaking to some unknown voice.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I would imagine they were a little wigged out too. Okay, you got something else?
No, sir.
Okay, verse 8. And Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were open, he saw no man. But they led him by the hand and brought him to Damascus. So, here we see he struck blind. He raised up, opens his eyes, he don't see anything, and had to be led in. You got anything on that one?
No, sir.
Okay, in verse 9. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink. It sounds to me like he was kind of tore up.
Yeah, he's in a state of shock.
Yeah.
He don't know what's going on here because his entire life, I don't know how old Paul is here at this point, or Saul. I don't know how old he is here at this point, but I mean, he spent all his life
Yes.
on the opposing side, and now this voice that is obviously Jesus, the Lord, the one that you've been persecuting His church, persecuting His people, has now spoken to you and given you a job to do. I mean, who in their right mind would not be really messed up right here?
Yeah,
I mean,
in a state of shock.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
without a doubt. And of course, and I don't know if we actually went over a whole lot of this, through our podcast, but I had looked at one point, some into Saul, and according to history, now, this is not scripturally, this is according to history,
Right.
somewhere between the age of 10 or 12 was when Paul started his education in the law. And he was, sent to what we would call today the Harvard or Yale of law school,
Right.
To get the very best education in this law that he could. So you're right. And then all of a sudden, everything you've dedicated your life to up to this point, you find out,
Just shattered.
yeah.
It's like glass shattered.
Yeah, you're going the wrong direction, bud. Turn around and come back the other way.
I mean, your goal here going into this city is I'm going to find those Christians wherever they are.
Right.
I'm bringing them to justice.
Yes, in the synagogue, during worship, it does not matter if it's a man or a woman.
Right.
Now, and of course, I know it's easy to, you kind of glaze over some of that sometimes and not really think a lot into it, or maybe most don't. I know I do. My mind kind of wanders anyway. But, I think, okay, now if there's a man and a woman, and they're in this synagogue, and they're worshiping, I mean, do you and your wife, when you all go to church, do you leave all your kids at home, or do you take them with you?
Take them with us.
So in my mind, I start thinking, well, what are these kids doing when this strange man comes in and grabs mom and dad by the
Right,
arm?
right.
And you know what I'm saying?
absolutely,
But now Paul had such a zeal, there was nothing going to hinder that.
Right.
I've got a job to do, and I'm going to go do my job.
right.
And we see, and of course, and you've mentioned this countless times, we see this as being, once this change is made, this is still the same attitude and mindset that Paul has.
I have no doubt in my mind that if this had been any other religion, if this had been Islam, if this had been Hinduism, Buddhism, it would have ended here.
Right, for sure.
It would have ended.
Yeah.
Because the persecution
Absolutely.
that this church was under was unreal. Paul's wreaking havoc on the church. Or
Yes.
Saul. I keep calling him Paul, but
Right,
he's
yeah.
Saul here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, that just lends so much credibility to me. And I think I mentioned it last time that these apostles that walked with Jesus Christ, they saw him prosecuted. They saw him beaten. They saw him crucified. They saw him dead. They saw him laid in a tomb.
Right.
Now, if this is your master, let's just put this in just common sense, you and I terms, all
Right.
right? If we saw this happen to our master, the one that's supposed to deliver, okay? And we see him in that compromised position, what are we going to think of that leader? Wow, are we really on the right side of
Yeah,
things here?
yeah, right.
Now, I know he said a lot of cool things, but now, dude,
Right.
it's over.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and
Yeah, he said a lot of wise, cool things, but, so there is so much validity to his resurrection and reappearing just by the fact that these people continued in this religion,
Right,
this
right.
fledgling religion here.
Yes.
Because if they hadn't saw him return and come back, if they hadn't actually saw him, in their mind there would have been some doubt
well, sure.
that, maybe the Pharisees are right.
Right, yeah, maybe, yeah,
Maybe he's not really the Messiah.
right,
He talked up a good game, but hey, where's he at?
yeah,
Well, he appeared to all those, and even appeared to, 500?
yes,
Okay? About 500?
right,
So, when I see these apostles treading right along, even through great, terrible persecution, I have to say to myself, there's something driving these guys.
yes, right,
These are just not,
Yeah.
this is not an average situation.
absolutely,
Because the movement would have died when the head of the movement died.
yes, yes,
But the fact of the matter is, he came back, showed himself, and it bolstered up these guys. The dead was made alive again.
right.
And
Yeah.
so
And the movement kept going.
the church moved on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I've actually listened to, scholars and some that believed and some that didn't believe. And every one of them agree on what you were just saying. There has to be some validity to this, because you're not going to find somebody that's willing to die for a lie.
Right.
I mean, they're just not going to do
That's
it.
just the way it is,
Right.
brother.
Yes. I mean, if there's no proof there, I mean,
If there's any doubt,
exactly.
any doubt, that
Yes.
much doubt in your mind that
Yes.
what I'm doing here may not be what I think.
Right.
When it comes to your death, you're going to go, ha, just kidding.
Right. That small amount of doubt is suddenly going to multiply and become very large.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Well, and you know, like I say, there's been several scholars that, you know, that you just catch bits and pieces of and listen to some. And that's the one thing that they all say.
Yeah.
Is,
I
you
mean,
know,
that's powerful.
well, it is. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody that's not very dedicated, that's willing to die for the truth.
And every one of these apostles that walked with Jesus died a grisly death, except for John.
Except for John, right.
I mean, they died some of the most horrible. It's Peter, crucified upside down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saul here, later on Paul, according to history, runs to Nero's chopping block.
Right,
Runs to Nero's chopping
Runs.
block. He doesn't try to save his own life.
No.
He doesn't look at
Right.
Nero and go, "Hi, I'm just kidding." Oh,
Right.
This whole thing's just we're just joking.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're cool. We're cool.
Well,
no, he was willing to stand unto his death, and that tells me so much
It does.
about how this early church felt about Christ.
Yeah. And you know, there had to be something,
Had to be.
yes, that had a pretty good
Solid.
foundation, yes,
Solid.
to motivate them.
Yeah.
I agree, brother.
Yeah.
100%. Now, okay, you got something else?
No, sir.
All right, in verse 10. And there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And to him said the Lord in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Behold, I am here, Lord. And the Lord said unto him, Arise, and go into the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus. For behold, he prayeth. So now the Lord has come to this man, Ananias, here at Damascus, and he's told him, you know, to go to, you know, this house of Judas and to seek for a Saul of Tarsus. Now, we're going to find that, you know, Saul or Paul, his reputation is very well known.
Absolutely.
And there's not many people that wants to be affiliated, not many of the church or the young believers that wants to be affiliated or even come in contact.
Goodness, no.
Because they know what's going to happen.
Right.
Because like you said, now, you know, I think a lot of times we look over that wreak havoc on the church. I mean, man, that Paul had a reputation.
Absolutely.
If you were caught worshiping the Lord, he was going to get you.
Right.
So now the Lord is speaking to this Ananias, and in verse 12, and has seen in a vision. So he's talking about this Saul of Tarsus that he, you know, he's praying, going to pray, and has seen in a vision a man named Ananias coming in and putting his hands on him that he might receive his sight. So basically the Lord's just telling him,
Right.
you know, I spoke to him on one end, now I'm speaking to you on the other. And verse 13, now listen to this, how Ananias responds. Then Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he hath done to thy saints at Jerusalem. So again, this reputation is preceding him. And according to Ananias, he's done a lot of evil against the church. So, you know, did you ever think about, and I don't want to, I guess, get a whole lot into the hypothetical side of things, but in my mind, I wonder, you know, this early church, I would imagine if word would have came beforehand that this Saul was coming, or even the thought, I would imagine that they ran and hid.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, now you've got this man that's getting this word from the Lord that's telling him, you need to go down and pray for this man. Could you imagine how terrified Ananias was? I mean, I would be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Are you sure, Lord?
yeah, without a doubt. Yes.
Should I take a gun?
Yeah. Lord, you sure you want me to go see this man, or you telling me to go hide from this man? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, you got anything?
No.
All right, verse 14.